This week on Willful, Andrew Dobson, the editor-in-chief of DobberNationLoves.com, a food, luxury, travel, and arts and entertainment blog now in its 9th year. You've got courage and hustle. Where do you come by it? I mean, are your parents entrepreneurial?
Ooh, my mother and father are listening to this. My parents are not entrepreneurial. My father is a doctor. He's a very good doctor. My mother is a bit more entrepreneurial. She is business savvy. She's always surprising. She has a degree in hospital administration. She's run my dad's medical practice for a couple of years, and then she learned about investment banking, and she's passionate about her garden, and now she's obsessed with genealogy. She's always doing something new. So I think I come by that honestly, as I'm always like wanting to be engaged with something and constantly working on a project kind of thing. But I think a lot of it has to do just my own internal, like who I am as a person.
Who are your heroes? They can be on or off the internet.
Heroes? For me, it would be anything in the space that inspired me to do what I do today. So, I mean, like Nigella Lawson, Martha Stewart. I used to love watching Christine Cushing live when I was in like Anna Olsen's Sugar. Mm-hmm. I would come home. I would watch the Food Network religiously, and then it was my mother's love and my father's love for nature and travel as well. We would watch. I remember watching Jane Goodall VHSs, like National Geographic.
Yeah.
And I bought my first camera when I was very young. So my parents saw, like, even the first big investment I had was a Black & Decker bread maker. So it was, I'm going to guess that I was in grade 6 or 7 or something in that age demographic. But I was quite young, and like, you know, most of the people in my age group were not saving like the $200 or $300. So that was a lot of money when your like allowance is $2.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I don't think what I do today is at all a shock to my parents, because they saw me as, like, I think, you know, in a good way, a weird kid that like has, okay, this guy is, you know, saving for a bread maker, and then he's saving for a camera, and like, yeah. So heroes for me are the people that I watched as a kid.
Yep.
And I was always really interested in travel, and I was cooking at a very young age, and doing recipe development, and like there was periods, especially when I was in high school, where in most families, I think you would just expect the mother or father to prepare the dinner, but I loved cooking so much, and I got into a level where, well, I certainly didn't clean up after myself very well. My mother would attest to. It was like it would be my sister saying, "What's for dinner tonight?" Because like I was just so interested in cooking and preparing meals for the family.
You really romance your readers. I mean, I've seen you travel to 3 or 4 countries just in 1 month, and I'm wondering, how do you avoid burnout?
Good question. I did burn out probably many, many times without really realizing it, because I've always been a go-getter. I visited 32 countries last year, and so this year dealing with burnout was making a huge change to my life, and how writing, it was just before Christmas, I sat with a piece of paper, I wrote, what are the things that are frustrating with me about my life? Because when you're so busy, you don't take the time to look at them on paper and be like, well, how do I change that?
Yeah.
And I do that every year. I am like a New Year's resolution type person, but for me, the things that I always focused on were my career. So I was like, you know, I'd have a list of things that I wanted to achieve in my career, and those were always the ones I focused on first. But my health, my relationships with friends and romantic relationships are things that suffer when you're like constantly traveling and you can't connect with people properly. And same with your health when you're a food and travel writer and you're sitting on a plane, then you're jet lagged. Like I would come home from trips and like maybe only go to the gym 3 or 4 times a month, because I was like, you know, you get home, you only have 4 or 5 days before your next flight, and you have to like churn out so many stories, and it actually exhausts me thinking about it right now.
Yes. Andrew, what's your definition of success?
I think still today I want to say that it's like, I make a joke living in Toronto, like for me a successful life would be owning a home with a backyard, which is like so out of reach for so many people, but like, oh my gosh, if I owned a home, I would know like that, you know, you'd kill me now and I've lived like a happy life. Don't know if that'll happen, but I mean, success for so many people, especially because I've had the opportunity to interview people who are very successful in the work that I do. And so I'm on a trip as the solo journalist, and then the rest of the people are consumers that can afford these vacations. And it's so fascinating I've never heard someone that was wildly wealthier than I, that was enjoying the same trip as me, when they hear about what I do for work, say that they would give up their 3 homes. They always reinforce that does not buy happiness, and that experiences are more important than material items.
Right. Andrew, thank you for being willful.
You're welcome.
You're lovely.